It's Lee Kelson here from Beach City, and I am here with the main man. Is that right? Are you the main man?
You call me that, but
Cool.
there's a lot of people putting this event on. So
Right.
yeah,
So it's a big team effort.
yeah, exactly.
And we're coming to you from Gush Cloud. Is it the Gush Cloud Lounge or is it just Gush
It's
Cloud?
the Gush Cloud Industry Lounge. So Gush Cloud, great partner of ours at Vidcon, hosting our industry lounges, and big part of what we're doing here.
So we've sort of set up our hub, our base here today.
Yeah.
I mentioned to you earlier we did 55 interviews across creators and fans and everything. We're going to try and aim for another 50 today, so
All right.
100 for the weekend, which is pretty cool. So before we go any further, I better introduce you. It's Jim Louderback, CEO of Vidcon. So Jim's been an awesome event so far. Yesterday was fantastic. What's your feeling around expectations, and is it sort of met what you thought it was going to do?
Oh yeah, this has been a great event. Look, it's been awesome to be in Australia. We just love it here. We love the people. The response has been great, and across everything we do. So we're about the entire ecosystem for the creative economy. So we're creators, we're fans and community, and we're industry. And so each one of those three audiences has been awesome, along with the press. Like you guys have been awesome too.
Thanks. So I was fortunate enough to be involved in the early enterprise cloud sort of rollout in this country back sort of in the early 2000s. And I see a lot of similarities with that. The ecosystem hasn't developed. There's a lot of sort of burgeoning industry stuff happening outside of the creator stuff. Is that the vibe you're getting as well?
Yeah, it is. But I think one of the things that's interesting about this, and we've seen this happen in media. I've been in media for a long time. I ran magazines. PC Magazine, PC Week, and a bunch of others.
So magazines was the printed material that we used to have in the old days, right?
Yeah. And actually, the magazines, I've actually, even though I've never been to Australia before this week, PC Week, I had a column in there, and we were in PC Week Australia. So there have been people in Australia that have read my stuff, even back in the old dead tree days of media. But so the thing that's interesting is, you can build a business in online video without having a big infrastructure. I mean, in the cloud world, right? You needed servers, you needed bandwidth, you needed all these things to make it happen, and there were winners and losers. In the creative economy, you just need to be a creator, and you can create and put out on YouTube or Instagram or Facebook or Musical.ly or Snapchat or wherever, and you can even start to get money from it. And then there's the whole aspect of how do you build a business, how do you build your audience. So VidCon is about all of that. But I think the fact is, you don't have to be big. You don't need a lot of capital to get started. You just need your cell phone and a desire to create.
So I think, you talk about the creative economy, and that's an interesting one. Mark Cuban recently noted that if he was going to encourage anyone to do a university degree, it would be one in the creative sort of arts, liberal arts area. Because, as we move into this era of artificial intelligence and robotics and machine learning, we're going to see more and more jobs go, and people are going to have to be reliant to build their own job, right? So the creativity and the entrepreneurial side of it, those skills of critical thinking and creativity are going to be paramount to this industry surviving. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And I think, look, in the U.S., the number one job that Gen Zs and Millennials want is to be a YouTuber and an internet video creator. And in part, that's because it's wonderful. I mean, the older you are, you play, I want to be a footy star, I want to be this or that, right? I had never had the ability to be a sports star, but
You and me both.
yeah, so let's be clear.
Yeah.
But that aspirational stuff is great. But I mean, when you think about liberal arts, if you learn about a lot of different things and learn about critical thinking and creative thinking and the ability to pull stuff together and the ability to reach out to audiences and be authentic, there are a lot of things you can do in your career to build that out. So I think Mark's absolutely right. The engineering and scientific stuff is great as well, but more and more with AI and robotics, they'll take off more of the things that, that you have accountants now. We might not need a lot of accountants in the future. I mean, we're going to need some, but I think.
Well, I think that's the type of job that I can see is going to disappear, because anything that's got a logical sort of structural process around it that doesn't need critical thinking. So anything that's logic can be automated, right? And anything that's not can't be.
Well, look at stockbrokers, right? Look at stockbrokers and financial and finance managers and investment managers. There are services out there that are as good or better than what they're doing, whether it's Wealthfront or Betterment, a couple of others as well, that basically are putting the need for a financial advisor, those jobs, which are lucrative and valuable and created a lot of value for people, may not be needed in 5 years. So it's not just the cab drivers and the lorry drivers and people like that. It's moving up the not intellectual, that's the wrong way to put it, but it's moving up the chain a little bit.
Into the professional sort of area. And I think my other observation, and I'd be interested to see what you think about this, is that the Gen Z and Millennials that I see coming through now aren't aspiring to go through this linear sort of structure of education and then get a corporate job, right? I mean, we see all these really individual, unique people here, and I mean, we're all about live different, be different.
Yep.
So celebration of your individuality, rather than sort of, I guess it's almost institutionalized through our education system.
Yeah, and really it's about engaging, connecting, and transforming, right? And we see a lot of that change the world, engage with people, connect with them, and and it's not a linear path.
Yeah.
And I think that's good because, look, and the reason why we had linear paths in big organizational structures is because communication was so difficult. And so the reason why you have a hierarchy at an organization with a president at the top and then, cascade down with middle managers is because communication was so hard from the bottom up and the top down. Now when you look at it, and so the Reid Hoffman who started LinkedIn says this really well, says the most important thing for you in your business life is not your boss or your company, it's the people you know. So you've got to build up your business graph, build up the people you know in those relationships because that's what's going to move your career forward. It's not your boss or your boss's boss. And that's a radical transformation, and that's because you can now communicate with all these people directly.
Yeah. So I'm guessing you're sort of a Gen X guy. Certainly not baby boomer, I don't think, but I'm a Gen X. And I did a talk with some sort of Gen X baby boomers the other day, and one of the things that fascinated me was they went, yeah, we get it. Everybody's watching it. We get it. There's all these people out there making content and video content. How do you make money out of that?
Well, look, I think about media in general and traditionally. So media has always been about building large audiences around types of content as a proxy for audience, right? So you have a news show is a proxy for a certain sort of audience. Footy is a proxy for a certain sort of audience. So there are all these different proxies. But that's going away. You don't need that anymore. As a brand, you can reach out directly through Facebook and other things directly to audiences. So how do you do that in a way where you can engage people naturally with what you want to do? That's where online video comes in, because if you're a creator and you have a group of people that love you, that engage with you in your community there, for a brand coming in and being part of that and embracing it and accepting it and driving value through it is much more valuable and a much better way to reach people than, say, using a footy game or using a reality TV show as a proxy for an audience. And so, interruption advertising also is dying, right? The idea that you're going to watch an ad so that you can watch your show. I mean, everybody under a certain age is using ad blockers, is doing this. Right. I mean, I reviewed the first digital video recorders when they came out in like 99, 2000, and I was like, you mean I don't have to watch TV ads anymore? This is awesome. And I was working at a TV network. Right. So that's just not going to stop.
Yeah. So I too came out of the sort of that media business in the 90s, and I remember saying to one of my old mentors, this Google stuff's really cool. You can actually pinpoint your audience and you can see what's going on, and it's really, I was really excited about it. And he was an old school media guy, and he's like, why would we want to tell our customers that? Like, we don't want to give them stats, for God's sake. We want to keep that smoke and mirrors around it, right? This is very transparent, the way that we see the viewers and the audience, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I think the transformation that we're seeing happening, we actually had a guy here from Southwest, Australian, but he's transformed Nike, he's transformed Google Daydream. And he says brands are moving from this sort of static experience that we tell you, it's our brand and we tell you what it is, to experience. And it's like you're about an experience and your brand has to be involved and engaged, but it's not a brand, it's an experience, and you don't own it. You share it, you put it out there, but your customers, your community define your brand, and your brand is an experience. That's radically different than saying, I'm making a widget and I'm putting out, I'm going to sell a widget, right?
Exactly. And this is what I am, and this is what I expect you to think of me in terms of a brand.
Yeah, I remember in the early days of Twitter, it was like 9 years ago, went and did I think Unilever, the big multi-product company, household products. They had this big, basically it was a summit. They got all their brand people together and they're like, there's a new world with people from Twitter and people from YouTube and us, Revision 3, the company I was running then. And I remember talking to the person from Promise Margarine and the brand manager, and he was like, what? I got to let my brand go? I can't tell people who we are anymore? And it's like, no, your audience is going to tell you. You've got to communicate and create an engagement with them. And it just was so hard for him to engage and like that. It just couldn't get through his brain. Now, I'm sure it has by now, but it's such a radical difference. But it's a true difference, and it actually makes sense. The more you can look at your audience and your prospects and your customers as part of the brand journey, and think of that brand journey as an experience that you're creating for your potential customers and your customers, that's the path to success. By the way, that path doesn't say 30-second non-interruptible ads anywhere in it.
No, and so that's interesting that you talk about that. So I remember AOL in 2000, started putting pop-up blockers, pop-ups on their pages, right? Because it was old world media. How do we do it? Oh, that's right. We interrupt them when they're in the middle of something.
Weren't they the guys who were doing the blinky stuff on the websites too before that? Yeah,
They were, and it really took them down, right?
And before that, they were sending out CDs to everybody. We did magazines, and we'd had their CDs on the cover of our magazines for AOL. I remember one person I worked with. Sorry, I totally derailed your question. Right. Yeah. There were millions and millions, billions of these CDs. She actually, for an awards show, actually made a dress out of all the CDs from AOL. So.
Yeah, so I think something that I've been learning over the last 3 or 4 months while we've been doing Beach City is that it's all about that having a conversation rather than sort of the one-way street.
Right, exactly.
And authenticity. We get that the guy in the suit behind the news desk we get that that's all fake, right? It's prefabricated.
Well, the thing about traditional television, and I've done it, is that you have all these layers between the presenter and the audience. So you think about it. News at 11, somebody died. The person's reading that on a teleprompter. That teleprompter is between you and the audience. And then you have the producer between the teleprompter and the audience. And then you have the agent between the producer and the teleprompter and the audience and the floor director and the lighting manager and the key grip. And
it's a big filter.
So all of these filters. And most of the people that I've worked with in traditional media are afraid of their audience.
Right.
They're like, what, the audience is here? I gotta go. I'm afraid of them. And because they have all these layers between them and their audience, and the people who, whether it's authenticity or honesty or trust, the ones who do it well in this new world love their audience, embrace them, and want to spend time with them. And that's what you see here at VidCon. Oh. You have these creators who have millions and millions of fans, but they're still coming here and sitting for hours while their fans come up and they sign and they take selfies and hang out together because they realize they have no power without that audience and they have no connections, they have no career. And they have to be with their audience. They love it.
We've seen it firsthand. It's been, they're treated like rock stars, and we just, you hear the noise and the roar when one of these guys come into the room. It's really amazing. It's sort of the Beatles of the 21st century, isn't it?
It is in many ways, but it's different. If you think again, a rock star, think about Paul McCartney, right? All the layers between Paul McCartney and his audience. There's, you got tour managers and all this stuff, and you're never going to get to have a conversation with Paul McCartney. I mean, maybe you will, but I never will.
I doubt I will. Yeah.
But these folks. Now, when you have this many, it's kind of hard to have one-on-ones with everybody, but they want to, because they realize that's important. And that is where the essence of what they're building lives. So that's why this is so special.
So on that note, thank you very much for your time, Jim. Amazing event. Really looking forward to see how this event evolves over the coming years, and we're hopeful we're going to do it next year. And certainly from Beach City's perspective, we hope we can continue to support it. And thanks very much to you and all your team for putting on what's been an amazing event so far. And we'll keep working on it today.
Thanks. We'll have a good time today. Thanks for being part of it and supporting us. And I'm not ready to announce anything, but we're certainly looking forward to continuing our relationship with Australia because we love you guys.
Okay. On that note, we'll be back very shortly with more.